So supercharge the customer experience. Strategies to enhance every stage of the customer journey. And what was interesting to me in looking at this is often when one talks about a customer journey, it's a little bit of a marketing jargonistic term where you talk about, how do you generate leads and how do you get leads into the funnel and what is the journey of those customers down through the funnel until they come out at the bottom end as leads, opportunities won or lost. But we wanted to cast the net a little bit wider because we know you're all running an ERP system and there's ample opportunity to expand this enhancement of the customer journey across all functions in the business. That sort of jargon has developed into what's called front office and back office. So front office being those customer-facing functions or departments in a firm, and back office being those activities behind the scenes, things like finance and HR. To use sort of more examples of that, sales, marketing, support as front office functions, finance, HR, and IT, back office, and these types of examples where we look to impact to supercharge the journey through things like how your sales reps communicate with your prospects, be that via calls and emails. What can technology do to improve that? How your marketing team can personalize their messages, how your help desk can be assisted with things like chatbots and so on, how you can use information to improve your customer success, and how your support team can use technology to make the interaction with a customer much more efficient. In the back office, these are the ones we're all much more familiar with. So in the back office, we're all used to doing this, and this used to be the focus of the ERP system, very much a back office system of making sure that finance was dealt with properly. And if you're running payroll and workforce management, hiring, onboarding new customers, your warehousing, monitoring stock levels, and so on and so on. But what's happening in the ERP world, and I will talk about this a little bit later, what's happening in the ERP world is that, I misclicked there. There we go, there. What's happening in the ERP world is that technology is changing and new tools are emerging that make it much easier and much more affordable for you to take this information in your system that's sitting in your core ERP system and to analyze it and to be able to convert that information into actionable knowledge, which is essentially what we want. And why do we want to do that? We want to do that because business success depends on how you are perceived by your customers and your prospects, your potential customers. You have to be perceived as better than your competition. And that's called your competitive advantage. So you work out where you sit in the marketplace vis-a-vis your competitors, and you build your business around that. You have to have a focus on how your customers are perceiving you, because in their eyes, perception is reality. To make that a little bit more real, I'm going to introduce you here to a friend of mine, or used to be a friend of mine many, many years ago. He's long dead and buried, and his name is Arnold, and he ran, and this is trigger warning here, one of Donald referred to my farming analogies. This is my first farming analogy for today. So Arnold ran a farmer's supply store not far from where I used to farm, and he had very high intelligence and didn't need artificial intelligence to help him with his business. He grew this business not because he was the cheapest. He did not grow his business on price. He grew his business on making sure that his customers perceived him as having better quality, providing timelier service, being reliable, etc., etc. And he created a customer value proposition that was built around these 7 values. So price, quality, time, functionality, service, relationships, and brand. And he was the master of knowing all of his clients intimately, not a huge client base, but he also knew that he couldn't grow bigger because of his own personal limitations of wanting to know each client personally and knowing that that was his competitive advantage. So when you went into his store and you said, I need an oil filter for my John Deere 3130, he knew what filter you needed. He had it in stock. If he didn't have it in stock, he would make sure he had it to you by tomorrow. And he also knew that if you were buying an oil filter, in all likelihood, you were changing the oil, and he knew what oil your tractor used, and he would sell you the 20 liters of oil. That sort of personalized service now becomes possible using technology. And if Arnold had had technology, he could have expanded his business multiple times and still been able to deliver the same service and the same customer value proposition. Because it's all about the perception. If you have a look at this chart over here, and you look at the bottom left-hand corner down there, you'll see a little dot that I put in there. This is the commodities end of the market. And in the commodities market, you can't really differentiate your product from anybody else. If you're selling coal, there's very limited opportunity to say, my coal is better than your coal. There's some grading in between. If you're selling rice, if you're selling corn, all of these products, uranium, whatever it happens to be, they are commodities. And the only way you can compete with commodities is on the basis that you can produce it for less than your competitors. And usually that means produce a higher volume so that you keep your cost base down. So at that end, you don't need to worry about the perceived value. You've decided that this is where you are in the matrix. You are not competing on perceived value added. You are simply competing on your cost of production. You can produce it less than the market price, therefore you can make a profit. At the other end of the scale, at the top over here on the right-hand corner, you have these brands like Louis Vuitton and Chanel and Gucci and Bang & Olufsen and Rolls-Royce and Bentley, who've managed to push the envelope so far up that the perceived value added is enormous. And as a result of that, they were able to operate right up there in that quadrant. And that's just a different model. But essentially, if you're looking at this graph, where you want to be is you want to be above this line. You want to be above that somewhere so that you are in this section that says market success likely. In the middle over here, success highly uncertain. At the bottom over here, market failure likely. And if you think about it, it makes perfect logical sense that you can't go and sell a poor value product or a product that is perceived as poor value, low value added. You can't sell that for a high price. You're just not going to fly in the market. So it's important to bear this in mind when you look at improving efficiencies in your business and look at using technology in your business to make sure that you apply your efforts to maintain your competitive advantage and don't stray into territory where you can't make money. The other issue that I wanted to cover off on today was just how businesses grow and how they evolve. As businesses grow, they become more complex. And this is a debate we've had with our suppliers over many, many years where their marketing says, we make business simple or beautiful business and that sort of thing. In the mid-market where you are, you have passed that milestone. You're not a startup business. You're moving towards being a mature business if you've been on Exo for a long time. And you've gone through these developmental milestones in businesses where complexity just becomes part of the mix. So you may start off with a single product, and as you grow, you have new products and services, you have increased transaction volumes, you have more staff, etc., etc. You start developing remote operations, you start working in multi-currency. The impact of all of that flows through to your finances, and you at one point, realized that you needed a configurable ERP system rather than an off-the-shelf system, because you needed to deal with multiple P&Ls and multiple ABNs and consolidation, integrations with third-party systems, which have just become part of the landscape in a modern ERP system, where you look at best of breed, you integrate that into your core system. And I'll show you in a moment how those best of breed integrated systems help you bring artificial intelligence into your business faster than replacing your core ERP system. One of the things that creeps in as businesses grow and become more complex is a thing called separation of responsibilities. And separation of responsibilities mean that where Arnold could talk directly to the customer and evaluate based on what the customer was asking for, I wanted a filter for a John Deere 3130 tractor. Arnold's brain was saying, are you the only person in this district that needs that? You are the first person that's asked, but I think other people may ask, am I going to bring it into stock? Am I going to keep a minimum or a maximum quantity? Who is my supplier? What can I afford to pay for this? When do I need to order it? How often do I need to order it, etc., etc. Where Arnold was making all of those decisions in his own head as a one-man band, as businesses grow, the responsibilities get separated. And the person making the decision to buy is a different person to the person raising the purchase order, is a different person to the person approving the purchase order, is a different person to the person receipting the goods, etc., etc. And this all adds complexity as you start with your internal accountant, financial controller, chief financial officer. And the result of that is disconnection starts setting in. So disconnection sets in the business. You use multiple systems. You start using Excel to try and link system A with system B. And people start specializing in the business. And if you don't get this process right and stop the disconnection, what happens is that your perceived value starts degrading. So you may be able to manage price, but things like quality and timeliness of service, functionality, the actual service itself, the relationships, the brand, start breaking down. And you move from a position of strong competitive advantage, as Arnold did, into a position where you can no longer maintain that competitive advantage because of the disconnection. So what we're looking at today is how can digital tools help us with this analysis of all the information that Arnold was doing in his head, and how can we use that to scale our businesses? So not only can we maintain our competitive advantage, but we can start doing that at scale as well to get the benefits of size. Now, I started in the beginning by talking about a customer journey, which was focused on the sales process and the sales funnel. But as you can see in this, and this is a linear representation, and later on when you hear from Swazek, she will show you that it's not actually linear. But you can see that the customer journey encompasses everything in your business, from sales through to billing, through to warehouse, through to shipping, through to your general ledger journals, through to your post-sales service, etc., etc. And what's happening in IT now, there's a lot of hype about artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is slowly starting to seep in. And what it is software that gives you the ability to manage this overwhelming volume of information that we can collect and take action based on that. I'll give you a few examples. So in marketing, you can start developing personalized campaigns. You don't have to do what Arnold did and send an email out to every client. You can actually have an email template, different templates for different categories of clients, different offers for different people that are on different pricing plans, and you can automate those sort of things. Swazek is going to talk a little bit about HubSpot. HubSpot is an absolute outstanding piece of software in terms of personalizing how you interact with customers. In marketing, predictive analytics, predicting customer behavior. You've all seen this when you've ordered on Amazon and it says other clients that bought this product also bought this, or because you bought that, you may be interested in this, or here are some suggestions of a book for you to read based on what you've read in the past. That sort of power becomes available to companies of your own size in the future. In terms of the practical back-end functions of order processing and order fulfillment, you can link your back-end and your front-end, your back office and your front office with things like chatbots for customer engagement, to helping answer customer inquiries through 24/7, having chatbots or websites or portals that people can look at. You can look at sales automation, insights on when to contact leads. If you're looking at, sorry, I actually switched slides too slowly there, but that was my order processing and fulfillment slide. If you look at AI in customer support and service, we've all come across those AI-powered service desks, which are becoming so much more sophisticated now, to the extent that you can ask a query of a support desk in plain English, and it'll respond to you in plain English, having looked up the answer to your query, and be able to say to you at the end, I don't have an answer, hold the line for the next available human being. Proactive maintenance and support, you've seen this creeping into high-end motor vehicles where you've got the Internet of Things, and the motor vehicle is via the internet is contacting or in touch with your dealer, and your dealer knows how many kilometers you've traveled in your car. Is it due for service? Is there something happening on the engine diagnostics that you need to know about? And you'll get a call from your dealer saying, you need to bring your Mercedes-Benz. I don't drive a Mercedes-Benz, by the way, but I've heard this from people that do. Bring in your Mercedes-Benz for servicing because we've detected an issue and we want to do some proactive maintenance. Customer retention and loyalty, sentiment analysis, things like Qualtrics, NPS surveys, CSAT surveys, not only doing the survey, but also analyzing the results and coming back to you with meaningful information and saying, a lot of your clients are actually making comments about the quality of your phone line or the time it's taking you to respond to their queries or whatever. And the AI is actually able to then sift and collate and give you meaningful feedback without you trawling through thousands of responses from customers. And the last one there is loyalty programs. Loyalty programs in that once you've signed up for a loyalty program and identify yourself as a customer, then Coles or Woolies knows when you go in that you are buying 12 kilos of dog food a week, and they can send you then as a loyal program member a special offer on dog food on a Wednesday. So all of this is happening. It happened at the big end of town some years ago. This is seeping down market because the cost is becoming affordable. And you can now enhance your customer journey in these ways. So targeted marketing, improved sales conversions, efficient order fulfillment, superior customer service, loyalty and retention strategies. What that does is it leads me on to talk about the technology life cycle, because this is where we sit in a journey of EXO, where many of you could have been what we call early adopters of technology. You've put in a system, it's become the central nervous system, the heart and lungs of your business. It's highly customized, it's highly configured, it's highly integrated. But technology moves on. And in terms of the technology life cycle, you sort of go through these phases where you have innovation, growth, maturity, decline, stagnation, and death. And all products follow that. This cycle used to be about 25 years when I started Kilimanjaro. We worked on the basis that a product would be in the market for about 25 years. And by the time that product started getting into the decline phase over here, you would want to have your next product at that point. So instead of your business or our business declining over here as that product moved out of the market, we would have the next product on the incline, and we would then be able to not take a dip and keep going like that. So that's sort of the software life cycle that one can anticipate with any software over a period of about 25 years. What is also happening, though, is that as software becomes more sophisticated, the 25 years starts getting condensed. And whereas with XO, we knew that that bell curve was about 25 years, with the next product, it won't be 25 years. It'll be much less because the rate of change of technology has accelerated. I'll pause briefly here just to talk about XO Payroll or XO Employer Services, because I imagine that some people in the room will still be using XO Payroll and XO Employer Services. MYOB has actually declared end of life for XO Payroll Employer Services. There is a new product, modern technology, MYOB Acumatica Payroll, fantastic product, which we'll talk about later. I'm sure somebody will talk about it later. But the XO Employer Services product is probably beyond, it's probably older than 25 years now, because I've been in this game for about 20 years. And it had been around as Comac Payroll for some years before that. But this is where it sits. It sits at its end of life. The technology is old. It's on a Fox Pro database. It's not supported by Microsoft anymore. And MYOB took the decision that they need to declare it end of life to avoid the risks that are associated with running old technology that's no longer supported. So if you are still on employer services, speak to your partner and make sure that by November 2025, you're running your new payroll system. XO is somewhat different. XO sits on a Microsoft SQL database. Microsoft has kept SQL up to date, and in fact, many modern systems, including MYOB Acumatica, run on a SQL database. So it doesn't have the same problem of the technology that it sits on. It is, however, reaching a point where XO itself is getting into this section here. And we know that because we track our sales of the software over time. And we know that there was a peak in terms of us selling the software into the market, which is the upper point in your bell curve. And we know that we sell less and less every year now because new software is more appealing, new technology, more incorporated into the core product. At the same time, we know that it is not an easy thing to change the ERP system in your business, and nor is it something that many of you would have any appetite for. But we do know that the bell curve is the bell curve, and at some point, XO will move into the stagnation and decline phase. Now, we have gone through this as MYOB's largest partner. We have had endless debates with MYOB about how do you manage this process to give your XO clients the confidence that the product will be supported for as long as they need it to be supported, but at the same time, be responsible in making your XO clients aware that this is not going to go on for another 25 years. And the commitment that we have from MYOB at this stage is that there is no end of life for XO in the next 5 years. At that stage, they will reassess. And at the point that they decide to make XO end of life, they will give us at least 2 financial years notice that XO is being made end of life. As a company, Kilimanjaro will continue to support XO for as long as we've got clients that are using XO. But as business owners, it is wise to start thinking about the journey. You have a minimum of 7 years. You may have more. You won't have less. 7 years is not a long time in the life of a company when you're talking about your core systems. And whatever decisions you're making in your company, it is worth just having one eye on the future and starting to think and plan about what you will do when we get to the point in 7 years' time or so, when XO starts moving down on on that life cycle. I know that Grant will be talking more about this today and so on. Certainly no, there's less cause for alarm. Let me put it this way. There's less cause for alarm now than there has ever been, because we started getting a message from our competitors in 2014, which is now 10 years ago, that XO is end of life. XO isn't end of life. There is no end of life for the next 5 years. And if at that stage MYOB decides this looks appropriate, you will have another 2 years. So start penciling something into your 5 and 10 year plans, but certainly no need to panic at this stage or be panicked by a salesman who sees you as a low-hanging fruit.